Okay. I'm an artist and also an engineer, and I've been working as an engineer, working design, like in computer design programs. So I, even though I don't think about it, I do feel kind of like a different reality that I'm always looking at when I'm working as an engineer, or I was working as an engineer. It does come to my work. It's just a different eye. I also like a bit mathematical somehow. My work, yeah, it is somehow like a little bit of a mathematical exercise, a formal study about how we look at images and. Well, engineering, I think it was a mistake. And yeah, I've been always very creative. Um, so really, from the moment when I started my BA, just on the first year, the first time I started exploring in a serious way, I started to create a different reality. I started to play with models, see, like those images, this project called Space in Four Pieces. Those were the older ones that I've done. And so they're not models, but they look like models. So actually, they are just pieces of card with one or two folds. That's it. But then, when you put the camera in an angle, you sort of see a space. But it's not. It doesn't really make sense because actually it's not a space. It's just a piece of card with one or two folds next to another piece of card with one or two folds. So I guess I've always been interested in what photography does to you. You know, it is okay. Different ways to cheat without having to cheat. Without having to use Photoshop or anything. It's just with a camera, just putting with the angle or having a different. Yeah, well, actually, um, in a way, I'm interested in how we read images and how our perception works and how we've been when we approach a landscape image, we don't really look at the image. We just read it as a landscape, and um, we have this already in our heads, that image that is like it's like a 2D two-dimensional piece of paper. We already understand the depth, or it's all really already there in our heads. But then when you break that depth with something that it looks like it is on the picture plane, somehow starts a tension between the two-dimensional object and images and the pictorial representation that you are, depicting in the landscape. And I do that by working on the landscape. So I don't work on the picture plane. I work on the picture plane, but outside the picture plane. So I work in reality. So some kind of double tricks. Yes. Um, the project Fuerteventura is being shot. It's called Fuerteventura because it was shot in Fuerteventura. Because I wanted somehow to give importance to the place. It's a very unique landscape chosen because it's incredibly kind of raw and very expressive. So I put the title of the project Fuerteventura. Um, I wanted, well, these desert-like areas are always really attractive to artists because they're kind of empty. They allow you to work with it. Whereas, a place like London, you don't really can't add more things if you can, but it's already madness anyway. So these, although they're not deserts, but there's the kind of like an emptiness, but at the same time very full, that allowed me to add another very powerful element and play with the conversation. So that's why. Well, I am. The truth is that I'm very happy if I manage to do that, to actually to make the person stop, because by doing that you're already changing the attitude towards images that we normally have. And to be honest, any kind of strong reaction is really welcome. But so yeah, for me it's a conversation between the two elements that are in the picture, and any kind of reaction to it is amazing. So, I mean, it makes me very happy. But yeah, for me, which is not that important sometimes, what you are, but for me, is how we look at it. And actually, you may not get it, but if I'm making you look at the image in a different way, then I'm actually doing what I'm, you know what I mean? It's working. Sometimes it's element of color within the landscape, but in other occasions, I just see what it, because it needs to be a conversation. So sometimes it's a conversation in terms of contrast, like those ones that are very dark with very bright colors, and then others the opposite with something kind of blending. It, so I go to the space. I find a space where I believe I can work, and then I bring like my palette, which are many squares and objects and weird things of different colors, and then I start playing. So when I see a conversation that works, I take a picture, which is digital, and I don't. But to me, it's the image itself that is the important thing, and it is not that relevant if I shoot analog or digital. That is how the reason I went on to digital was purely practical. I I think it's like 90% finished. I still wanted to had a few ideas that I hadn't been able to make, and then also I'm looking forward to move on to other ways of conversations. So I'm going to continue exploring the same ideas, but in a different way. The thing, I think we are all different, and for me personally, to actually like to do a BA in a very good place, it was just like it was amazing. It was I felt luckiest person in the world, really, to because if you do it by yourself, it's a little bit like therapy. Like you can somehow, if you have, we all have issues. So you only by yourself, you are gonna deal with your issues. But if you have someone else helping you and putting rubbish that is not important out and focusing on what it matters and what works for you or what is your view, in the same way that, if it's therapy, then focusing on what is the problem or whatever. What is the so a professional advice on he, to me, it was amazing. So studying was great, and then when you finish, then you've already built like a critical eye, and then with your colleague artist, then you keep having that kind of feedback that is incredibly important. Yes, for me, I don't think I would have been able to have my eye without the help of people that made me see what actually was that I I wanted to do. So I know, for me, studying was the beginning of the opening to that. But I know the people, can do it. But I think, yes, as you said, collaboration is the main thing. Otherwise, it's very difficult just by yourself. Obviously, some incredibly talented artists do it. But I think it's very, very useful to have. Yeah, some artists don't need it, but, but most of us highly benefit from it. Yeah. You're welcome. Yes, really, thank you so much. That's great.